couple of weeks ago, Will and I went to Moncton, and we went to Moncton to pick up a kitchen that we had purchased. So we had to disassemble it and put it in a truck and bring it back. This woman had this fridge. She said the fridge goes with it. Now, I've moved a lot of fridges. Fridges can be heavy, but this fridge was ridiculous. Put it on the dolly, and it took a while just to lean it back. And then I started like, Will, get back here. Get back here. We're going to lift it up. It's falling on me. And this thing weighed a stinking ton. And we couldn't move it. And fortunately, one of my other guys, Cody, said, you got to call this guy. He's in Moncton. He's a friend of mine. He can come and help. This guy came. Colin, he was a bear. I mean, the guy could have lifted it up himself. He was just massive. And he moved the dolly, and he's the one that's moving it and whatever. I mean, it took him some work, but he's doing it. And he kind of looked at me and goes, yeah, I was kind of built for this. I'm like, yeah, me, no, you, yeah. Yesterday we talked about what it's like to be spent. And sometimes we've just expended all our energy and we need to rest. Sometimes it's not a matter of being spent. It's a matter of being weak. And I'm not saying it in a necessarily derogatory thing. Sometimes we just do not have the strength for certain things. Certain things come into our life and they are overwhelming and they are too big for us. And the Bible doesn't discredit that. The Bible just says that when we are weak, when we do not have the capacity in and of ourselves to do something that God has placed in front of us to do, he said, when we are weak, he is made strong. See, God is consistently, people said, God will always give you the strength to get through something. Yeah, I mean, you survive. And God doesn't necessarily say that you'll do, he doesn't even say necessarily you'll physically survive, because sometimes people die. People are martyred, and people are still being martyred more than ever in history for their faith in Jesus Christ. But we tend to look at what we go through physically and ascribe that to spiritually. And spiritually, God will, when our spirits are weak, God will always give us the strength to bear up underneath whatever it is that He's allowing into our lives, even if that's death. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to enjoy it. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be happy with it. Doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to shed tears or go through painful times. The Bible says, don't be surprised when tribulation comes, as something strange is happening to you. Paul said, it was such a struggle, we were close to death. I mean, there's times when we're just like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And God says, well, I'm going to. In Ephesians, it says, and after doing everything to stand, just stand. And sometimes that's all we got. And that spirit, just like, I'm just going to stand here. I can't move. I'm that way sometimes. I'm just like, God, I got nothing else. And I don't know what to do. God just says, just stand there. I got this. I don't know what it means every time when God says, I got this. Because God doesn't always tell me, he says, I got this and this is what I'm going to do. He doesn't always tell me. Actually, more often than not, I don't know. And it's just trusting that, God, you're working everything out. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's all I need and that's all God gives me. If I need more, God will give me more. God says he will supply all our needs. And sometimes that's when we don't have something, we have to remember that if we don't have it, we don't need it. And that's not always easy when we're going through struggles that are overwhelming. But sometimes being able to stand is just knowing that God's got it under control. And just standing there and waiting for him to do what he's going to do. So sometimes we're spent and we're going to be refreshed. Sometimes we're weak and God says, I'm going to do it for you. And both are okay. Hope that's been an encouragement to you. God bless.